Before today's episode of Same Business, Different Day, I want to invite you to listen to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we interview the movers, shakers, and changemakers of Vista, California. Watch Velocity on YouTube or tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Velocity, moving Vista forward.
Because when you're starting a business, it's going to stress, it's going to put a load on your life, right? And if anything is out of alignment, it's going to crumble, right? And with that goes your balance, okay? So just making sure you got things from just expectations. You know what you're getting into. Your spouse knows what you're getting into, right? Your friends and family know what you're about to do, and they're on board and ready to support and help you, you know? That you've got a good support system and you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And then you yourself know and kind of believe in your capabilities and what you can do. So it starts there. So balance starts well before you find yourself in that situation, right? Because you have to lay that foundation and make sure everything is in alignment, okay? And I think back when I first started, when I went to business school, I didn't make sure those things were in alignment, okay? And so my balance got way out of whack and my stress level was way up here, okay? And it didn't really have to be if I just maybe put a little bit more thought into making sure things are in alignment. So if I'm giving some advice, is before you do anything, make sure you get all your ducks in a row.
Same business, different day.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. I'm your host, Zeke Corley, recording as usual from the beautiful Film Hub here in Vista, California. Now, part of the journey of our guests today passed through Austin, Texas, and neither of them brought me any barbecue, but we'll talk about that.
Later date, whenever you want.
But we're just happy to have them grace us with their presence because not only have they come together to form a business, but to make a difference. The work that they are doing is for people that matter to them, people that matter to me, and people that should matter to us all. But first, we will take our time and get to know Jason Roberts and Ari Malka. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us, Zeke.
Good
to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you guys are here, man. And we've been talking already.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit more about the business and about you guys, but I want to share that with the audience. So, but we're going to start at the beginning, though. You know, we like to talk about this journey, right? Because it helps others to aspire, other business owners aspire to do what they really want to do in life and taking those leaps, you know what I'm saying? And actually visualize the future, the success that they could have. So, Jason, tell me where it all started for you.
Well, let's go all the way back,
Please.
right, to begin, like I was sharing with you before. So I'm in California now, but started out in Texas. Born and raised in Texas. I was actually born in a place called Bryan, Texas. So it's near a college called Texas A&M. We won't talk about that university, because we both went to UT. We're both Longhorns. But, all my roots are from East Texas, so rural East Texas. Was raised, treat everybody the same way, no matter who they are. Taught the value of hard work, nothing's given to you. And, that's just how you were raised in the Roberts family, So after that, actually moved down, probably about when I was in the 6th grade or so, moved down to right outside of Houston. And finished high school outside of Houston, went to college up at UT. And really got my first taste of Frontline Operations. Met my wife at UT, my better half, Got 3 kids now.
All right.
One is about to graduate from San Diego State and one about to go to high school. So we have one left in the nest, And it's going to be a totally different kind of environment for us. But went to UT. After I graduated UT,
oh, you're getting ahead. You got to tell me where it started. You got to tell me where it started. Because you know what? What really just clicked for me just now.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that you just mentioned is you learn the value of hard work.
Oh yeah. Well,
give us an example. I want to know what that means.
So Well, first, my dad, the George Roberts, right? My dad was one of 11 kids, right? So, grew up, and it's it's you're in the South, right? It's poor, but still taught the value of kind of education at a very young age. So a lot of my aunts and uncles are teachers or been in that field and things like that. But from day one, we were taught hard work. So I remember, again, this is East Texas, man. So you might know anything about baling hay, right? I've done it. Fixing barbed wire fence, I've done it, right? And you do that type of stuff at a very, very early age. And my dad, when he was coming up and going through college, man, he worked as a mechanic, kind of put himself through school and all that stuff. You were just taught there's no such thing as a handout, and you got to work hard, right? Okay. My dad used to have this saying, right? Don't y'all laugh at me, all right? Don't y'all laugh at me when you hear this, all right? But he had this saying, it's called, and you say, root hog or die a po pig, right? What that means is, as a hog, you've got a root to go get your food, right? Or you're gonna die a poor pig. So it was kind of that's a saying he used to say to us all the time, which is like, you gotta work. Yeah. You gotta work. And so just from a very early age, and as I get to my, as I'm now in my adulthood, it's hard to turn it off sometimes, So that's the flip side of it. It's kind of hard to turn off that work ethic. But it's just something that was instilled in me and my brothers. You'll see it in my cousins and just our whole, just kind of family, how our upbringing.
That's wonderful.
Was to, you always work hard. Don't expect anything from anyone. So my dad would tell me stories, man, especially, him being, he was so many firsts. I think I shared this with you. He was so many firsts where, he was the first black to get a PhD in mathematics from Texas A&M University.
Love it.
But he used to tell me the stories about some of the trials and the tribulations that he had to go through. So he instilled in me, don't expect a handout. Specifically, I remember one story he told me where, he was getting ready for, a big final or test or something like that, and some other students would go in and the TA would help him, right? And being there with them and help him. He goes in there and they'd say, well, the test is just on this. Get in where you fit in, as they would say. You got to figure this out. Yeah. So he shared stories like that with me to kind of just reinforcing me that don't expect help, right? But you got to work hard. And so that's just, but you always treat everybody with dignity and respect. And I always saw my dad, no matter who he's talking to, my mom too, I don't care if we're talking to a cashier in the store, it's always just respectful. We were taught, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. Yeah. Just a level of respect for everybody. I don't care who they are. And it's something I've tried to do, live up to his standard and my mom's standard in raising our kids.
Yeah, I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. And we're going to talk about it in the business as well, right? Because, that the respect for those people, like you said, at the grocery store and so forth. Yeah, right?
You treat everybody the same. It's a golden rule that nobody follows, but that's how we were raised. Yeah.
I love it, man. Yeah. I love it, man. That's some good stories. Okay, Art, tell us your story about the po pig.
If I can match that.
Where did it all start for you, Art?
So I was born and raised in Texas also. A little bit bigger of a town, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Dallas. My parents were immigrants from Israel in 1980. They were both in the Israeli military, and they had to make a decision. Do we stay here and further our education, or do we go to this random new place where there may be more opportunity?
Right.
So they actually chose to move to Dallas. Neither of them have post-secondary ed, so they have high school. Neither of them went to college. And that actually sort of was a big just foundation for both my sister and me. They pounded us day in and day out in the importance of education. I mean, it was just nonstop. Like, this is what you have to do. It's super important, etc. So that shaped a lot of what I did. With family of immigrants, it's tough because you don't necessarily fit in. I was born in the U.S. My sister was born in the U.S. But we sort of try to meet the people that you get along with, etc. But you don't get that, true American experience, right? So, so we had to sort of figure that out for ourselves. But but they instilled good values in us, and that helped, So
it sounds like it, right? Right. So, of course, and I like this conversation when it comes to the immigrant mind frame. There's one piece, right? Then you've also got the one where they're pushing education. I love that as well. I have a question, though. It's just crossed my mind when you talk about your folks coming in 1980, you said?
Yep.
Where, did they still, both of them have to serve in the Israeli army?
Yes, they both did.
So then they might have had some grit that, many folks don't have, right? Because I've heard stories about serving. And so they weren't just like laid back, easygoing folks, right? I mean, when they hounded education into you, they meant it, and they expected you to be able to stand up to it.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. There were times when I was in junior high or in high school, and my dad would, maybe be disappointed because I wasn't spending enough time on my homework, and thought about shipping me overseas to serve in the way. He's like, that's what you need to do. So yeah, it was like
look
that.
At you now.
But it was an extremely loving family, and that's another thing. Right. So I got to say this. I know I'm jumping ahead.
Please.
I've been really fortunate to have people around me who have always wanted to have always made me want to be a better person.
Love it.
It started off when I was young. The woman I'm married to now constantly she's challenges me all the time. This guy right here to my right, always wants to make me be a better dad, husband, person in general.
I love it.
So I'm lucky. I feel really lucky.
That's great. Yeah. And you found a way to surround yourself with those kind of people, right? And maybe they surrounded you. You attract that.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
and that's right. Awesome, man. It's good to be in that position, right? Because there's so many bad influences that we can come across as we get, grow older, and even in our younger ages, right? Especially even then when we're more influential, or it can be influenced easier. Yeah. And so, I like that, man. I think that's great. Because that's one of the questions that I like to ask. I like to ask about folks that influence you, right? Folks that maybe were mentors to you, or people that you even aspire to be like. You just kind of saw them either from a distance or something, and you kind of aspire to be like. Mm-hmm. It's always great to hear stories because that's part of what forms you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So, and I love your stories about your dad. That seems to be number one in terms of mentorship early
my dad,
on.
My uncles. Man, I can go on and on about some of my uncles, man. So
okay.
But maybe that's for another day. Yeah. But I had a lot of great role models.
I love it, man. It's good to have positive ones over the negative ones, man. But you see those stories, and I'll say this. I don't want to overshare and be uncomfortable at home when I get back home, but both of my parents come from large families. And not everybody is going to be successful when you in double-digit siblings.
Yes, exactly. You
understand? So it could, there could be some people that you kind of learn from and see, man, that's a tough road that one went down, and uncle's struggling, but I definitely still learn from it. You know what I'm saying? So there's that as well. Yeah. Now, your family was a little smaller, Ari?
No. My mom has 6 brothers and sisters, and my dad has 6 brothers and sisters too.
Okay.
So not double digits, but they both come from pretty big families.
Yeah. I love it, and there's so much culture involved too, in both sides, right? You're talking about Texas, you're talking about the South, you're talking about Israel, and all of that. And so much. There's the love. You got to bring everybody together with the love, but then there's also the lessons.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I love it, man. Ignoring squills and warning lights on your car is not a good way to lower the cost of owning it. And going without essential business insurance is not a good way to save money in your business. What we know for sure is doing either will cost you more than you will save, in the short and the long run. With YourInsurancePlace.com, you can trust a specialist to help maintain your cars and avoid major expenses. Business owners should look to business insurance specialists when it comes to finding competitively priced, quality insurance coverage for their businesses. At YourInsurancePlace.com, we specialize in workers' compensation, general and professional liability, employment practices and cyber liability, property owner policies, and bonds for most types of businesses. YourInsurancePlace.com knows that we can help. If you're uncovered, need to lower the cost of your current insurance, or need better coverage, we can help. YourInsurancePlace.com has been helping businesses for close to 40 years. If you need a quote on your insurance, call us now at 858-569-8100 or find us at YourInsurancePlace.com. We are business insurance specialists ready to help.
Hi, I'm Jeff Fox, founder of Star Fox Media. We're a digital marketing and video production company that focuses on serving small businesses here in Vista, California. We have the team and all of the equipment necessary to produce, film, edit, and distribute your podcast to as many people as possible. For more information, you can reach out to us via email at info@starfox.media or give us a call at 760-385-3117. Let Star Fox Media help you tell your brand story today.
I love it. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit further into maybe what you wanted to be when you grew up. Did you have business aspirations?
You know, ironically, I did not. Right? I think because a lot of it is what you're exposed to. You know, when you're growing up, I wasn't exposed to entrepreneurship. What I was exposed to was teachers. Like I said, my dad, you know, ended up being a math professor. My mom was a high school teacher for a number of years. You know, so, and I had uncles who, I did have one uncle who kind of owned some properties and stuff like that. And uncle, I would work with him during the summers. He would always come down during the summers, and I would help him when I was doing something with my grandmother's house. Right. Okay. So he's kind of more from a carpentry trade. Okay. But never entrepreneurship. So it was like, hey, you're gonna push you in kind of a route of maybe being an engineer, or you're gonna be a teacher, or you're gonna be something like that, right? But never, you know, never entrepreneurship. And that really, you know, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, and I can fill it in, you know, later as we go throughout this. But that bug, Zeke, really didn't hit me until business school. You know, later on. Okay. Yeah, when I was at Rice, and man, Ed Williams, Al Napier, right? Those two guys at Rice, they're the ones that kind of lit that fire in me. And it took a while to kind of find the right thing, because it's not just about, and we're going to talk about this, Ari and I, it's not just about making a lot of money, right? It's about, you know, having a purpose. That's right. And making a difference. And they're not mutually exclusive, right? So it took me a while to kind of find it, you know, but I didn't catch that bug really till much years later after my upbringing, because that I think that set my foundation on how I just deal with people. Yeah. But it didn't set my thinking in terms of start your own business, be entrepreneurial, you know. It was more of, to the contrary, hey, just work hard, you know, get you a good job. Yeah. You know? You see a lot of that. Yeah, that's how I was raised. Work hard, do a good job. If you work hard, people will acknowledge it, and you'll be able to keep progressing, right? And I was on that track. Sure. But it wasn't until many years later where I got that, where Al and Ed kind of lit that in me. It took a few years, right? But everything happens for a reason, and things line up, you know? And that's where we are here today. I still got to hear it, though. I still got to, you know, this one's a good one right here. I'm going to dive in a little deeper, because I don't think we talk about this too much, right? I talk to guests about what they wanted to be. Yeah. You know, I talk about who they became. Yeah. I might even talk about the crossroads here and there. But you specifically, it clicked with me. Yeah. Lit that fire. I want to know, like, what exactly? Specifically like says now, because it could be like, you know, when the light bulb goes on, right? It could have been like they said you could make this much if you're doing it on your own, or they could have said you could do what you want to do when you do it on your own, or you could have freedom when you do it on your, like, there's something that told you that lit that fire. I'm interested in what that is specifically. Yeah, I can bring up kind of two specific situations. One was there's this exercise. If you've never done it, I highly recommend that you do it. And that's to write your own eulogy. Okay. I've heard this. We did that in the class. And it's like, what are people gonna say about you when you're gone, right? And it really forces you to think about what's important. And that's one of the things we did in Al's class. Okay. And that was very, very eye-opening for me, right? And, he was a successful entrepreneur, and you could see the level of freedom that he had, right? Same thing with Ed Williams. So Ed's class, we really got into more of the nuts and bolts of, valuations and stuff like that. But when you hear his story, he started out in the funeral home business, right? Just buying and selling and aggregating all these funeral homes, and made some good money. But you hear about how he was investing and buying and selling all these different businesses. But just the way they carried themselves, they had a level. You could see they had a level of freedom, right? Mm-hmm. And even though at that point in time, you could say I was on the fast track or whatever you want to say in kind of corporate America and moving, and there still wasn't that level of freedom that I saw with them.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yeah.
So that's what kind of really lit it in me, like, man. And it was just so interesting how you can start a business. There's strategy involved. You're doing all aspects of the business, kind of like what we're doing right now, And it was just extremely interesting to me. I remember trying to pencil different business, couldn't get them to work, right? Mm-hmm. But after that, when I go back to my corporate job, that corporate setting, it was always on my mind.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I appreciate that answer. So, what about you? Are thoughts about what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I was always interested in math and science.
Okay.
I think probably if I was smarter, I would have gone to school for something like that.
Says the man with the PhD.
Physics.
Right?
Exactly. No, don't listen to this cat right here.
Yeah. No, it's not like that. But I guess if you're really interested in human behavior, psychology is the way to go. I do remember, though, so this is one thing that sort of shaped what I did, right? So I did take a class in high school, psychology class. I really liked it. It's just an intro to psych class. Mm-hmm. But at that time, my favorite course was probably chemistry. Mm-hmm. But I went to college, decided, start out at pre-med. Like, I don't think I could be a doctor. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to faint at the surgery table or anything.
It's not recommended.
It might be problematic.
Yeah. So I decided psychology, took some psychology courses. I was like, this is really cool. I really like this. Graduated. And then the person who spoke at our graduation, I wish I remembered his name now, told us, this is awesome. Good job. You're a Longhorn for life. Congratulations. You can't do with a psychology undergrad degree. Mm-hmm. Right? My parents heard this and they looked at me like, what? So at that moment, I really had to start thinking about what I was going to do. Because with an undergrad psychology degree, you don't have that many options.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I thought about it, took 2 years off, worked at UT Southwestern Medical Center doing some research.
So you took time off of school.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is important because, again, we talk to, our listeners about the paths that each of us take. And some folks, again, we understand education was so important in your family all along. But for some folks, just like you, just keep grinding, keep your nose to the books and keep going to whatever your ultimate goal is. And so you took some time off after you...
I did, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And
it's okay?
Yeah, it was okay.
You wound up all right.
Yeah, I did. So I decided to, get my PhD, found a field in psychology. It's called industrial and organizational psychology. That is really neat, actually. It's sort of social psychology applied to the workplace.
Love it.
Yeah. So
important.
We solve a lot of, tough to solve problems in organizations. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because not that many people know about IO psychologists. And it's a really cool field because you can go into academia, you can go into practice, and you can do a bit of both. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty flexible.
I have somebody I need to introduce you to. Okay. I like this, a past guest. This is great. Now, you guys met in school in Texas, though, right?
No, so the way we met is...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
no,
please.
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, actually, I met his better half, right? Because he's met my better half, obviously. But we went to college together, so we went to school. So Ari he might be just a couple of years younger than me, you know.
Okay.
So his wife and I met back in college, became friends. My wife and his wife friends, and we've been friends Since then, you know, I guess sophomore year of college, and that's how I met Ari. After we graduated college is when I first met him, back when they were dating and things like that. And as you can tell, man, it's just there's some people that you just know just the second you meet them, they're good,
Genuine. That's what I'm pulling.
people. Yeah, that's the word. Just genuine, authentically good people.
Yeah.
And they don't get much better than this guy right here.
Love it.
You know, I'm telling you, they don't get much better than Ari.
I love it.
And so we've known each other, you know, through his wife, you know,
Over 10 years.
over 10 years, 10 plus, you know, almost 15 years, we've known each other. And, you know, I'm better for it. And this guy is, like I said, he's been an awesome business partner. But well before we were business partners, we were good friends, you know. And, but yeah, I actually met him through his wife many years ago.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now when you were in school, you were studying business.
Well, actually, so can I piggyback on your earlier question about what I wanted to be? I thought I wanted to be an engineer. Right. So I actually started out engineering. I got my engineering degree. It's kind of you take a year off from school where you go and you work in the job.
Yeah.
So I did a co-op, right?
Okay.
As a mechanical engineer, and while I was making some good monies in college, right? I was like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the work. Right.
Money wasn't enough.
Money wasn't enough. But at that point, you get so far along, it's like, man, do I want to go and basically, I'm already working a year, so that's extended it, then go and throw away some of this time. So I went and got a minor in business.
That happened again. That theme is money is not enough.
Yeah, exactly.
With Jason. So.
I like that. You know, but there is the other piece I'm pulling out of what you just said, which is throwing away time.
Yeah.
And the concern that so many folks have, especially undergrads, right? That, oh no, if I don't just keep down this road, then. But listen, I think I might have told you, a lot of my guys up in Northern California, the basketball coaches, and one of my favorite things that I've said, one of those guys' favorite things that I've said to them is that you're going to be older much longer than you're going to be younger. Right, so you're not losing as much time as you think you lose. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna steal that one from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, one of the things that he's really helped me solidify, and it has to do with this because, to me, time is perhaps the most precious resource we have.
Sure.
You can think that you wasted some time, but it's not.
Right.
Because everything you read, every conversation you have, right, every podcast you listen to, there's something there to take from.
100%.
So if you go with that perspective, it's not wasted. It's actually very well used.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Experience is your best teacher.
Which is for college students, I think would be a great lesson.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Business and engineering, and then what?
So I got a minor in business, got married, have a small baby on the way, and so I was thinking about going into consulting, but with that you're going to be traveling all over the place. You can't do that with a young kid. So moved to a place, got a job with a company called Ethicon. If you've ever heard of them, have you ever had a surgery?
Yeah.
All right. So chances are the suture that you got sewed up with was from the plant that I worked in a small town called San Angelo, Texas, out in West Texas.
Okay.
So I worked there, and that was kind of it wasn't my first exposure to frontline operations because I worked in high school and stuff like that, but I was on the floor, second shift, of a big manufacturing facility, right? And I got my first of so many tastes there. So I'm working in a big, huge manufacturing facility. I'm a supervisor, right? So you come in they want people with engineering backgrounds, but you're not doing the hardcore engineering work, which is perfect for me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to, do the calculations and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I didn't like that. I like working with people. So I got my, my colleagues, the folks I was working with on the line, You know, we had maybe 20, 25 people on our shift. So you're talking every day, right? And I liked it because we get a chance to outperform the first shift and the night shift and stuff like that.
Competitive.
Yeah.
No.
maybe just
He kind of likes people too.
Yeah, I like people too. But that was my first taste of Frontline. So I got my engineering degree, got the business minor, but I moved into what they call a plant facilitator role. So I was basically a supervisor. It's a manufacturing facility where you take the needle and you got the suture and you got the machine and they clamp together and you put it over here. So they made sutures, bone mesh, and all other kinds of stuff. But it was also where I think I've been very blessed and fortunate because at the time I worked with two folks. One guy's name is George Well and then Tanya Harris, who, and I've been really fortunate. I look back on my career just in general to work with folks that put my development first. That they coached me. So George was my peer on the first shift, but he had been working there for quite some time. But he and his wife, were very nice to us and helped us acclimate to San Angelo and things like that. And he kind of took me under his wing and coached me as this guy, gung-ho right out of college. We're going to beat y'all on the first shift and the third shift and all that kind of stuff. And we did. But
I know you wasn't expecting this type of commercial of another podcast coming in, but whoever you were listening to, they're irrelevant at the moment. What I'm saying right now is we have a brand new podcast that you should stop listening to whoever you listen to in this moment and listen to us at Odd Pairing. It is about adult beverages and
Wait,
Paige.
I'm supposed to tell you about that.
And Paige is going to tell you a little bit more.
So it's adult beverages, food, community, culture, and basically anything else we find interesting through the drinking.
Yeah, and as you can see, we've been drinking a lot today because we already did the episode. So at any time, you guys can find us when you finish with this podcast, whoever you're listening to. You can find us at YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and iTunes and anywhere else you get your
Instagram
podcast stuff. And you can also find us on Instagram, where you will find hilarious memes and some snippets from our show at Odd Pairing Pod. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hello, friends. This is Joe Samo from the Samo Law Group. I am the host of Run It By My Lawyer. Over the years, I've had so many people that have had legal issues and legal questions and legal concerns. And I always, over the more than 20 years, I've been telling people, before you sign anything, before you do anything, if you have a problem, just run it by my lawyer, right? Just run it by me. And now I have a podcast doing just that. You can call me, you can email me, any questions you have. I love hearing from people and answering legal questions. And on our podcast, we've talked about everything from free speech, gun rights, anything you want to discuss, employment rights, everything. So you have an issue, run it by my lawyer and watch this podcast. You'll be entertained and you'll learn the law. Love to see you. You can find me anywhere, okay? YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever you want. And if you can't find me on some platform, let me know and I'll come find you. All right, thank you.
He kind of took me under his wing, and then Tanya Harris, who was his boss and both of our bosses, she ran that department. She took really good care of me too. She, came in, she gave me a promotion kind of right off the bat, and gave me a raise and things like that. We weren't out there long because, just for personal reasons, difficult pregnancy and stuff like that. And there's no support system, right? All our family was back in Houston. So we ended up going back to Houston. But that really was, so I got the degree in engineering, but right when I got out of school, I didn't go that engineering route or even that business route. I went into frontline operations and I loved it, but we ended up having to go kind of a different route because of just support system, difficult pregnancy. So we were there for about a year. But you're going to hear this theme from me is I've been so blessed and fortunate to have people who took me under their wing, right?
Yeah.
Who invested in me.
That's right.
And that is kind of interlaced into what we're doing right now.
I like that. I like that. I like the way you tease that. I like the way you wrap that up. That was great, right? So now the corporate work, though, there are some experiences that both of you have gotten out of that that have led you to also be successful in entrepreneurship, right? In having your own, because you guys have extensive resumes when it comes to the work you've done for others. So now, what kind of experiences can you like glean on and talk about how that has influenced what you do now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I can say one thing that might help sort of lay the foundation. I never wrote my eulogy. I think that's probably a really good thing to do. It's a little scary.
Scary, sure.
It is.
But someone once asked me, what are you most afraid of? And I said, not making an impact. And that really does terrify me, because I think there's so many good impacts to be made, and if I don't contribute to that, that wouldn't be good. So I started out a couple internships in Houston, and then got a consulting gig in DC, where I learned a lot, which was really cool. It was an IO psychology consulting firm, so I got to work with large federal government institutions, which was really cool. Moved to LA, and then that was like a straight corporate job, and I did it for a while. I didn't love the work, but that made me realize that, again, I can still learn, I can still take stuff from that experience, and I learned that sort of in the midst of that work. So that sort of helped me, figure out what roles I wanted to play and what I wanted to do. Because I know sitting in an office from 9 to 5, I can't do. I just, I got to move around. I got to talk to different people, etc. But something. So I guess I have this thing in me where if I'm seeing, unfairness, it just sparks something in me. And my wife is the exact same way. I mean, when we hear or see something like that, it just it really sparks something. Yes. So when Jason came to me early on with an idea, and he'll tell you more about this, that was like, okay, this is what we need to spend our time doing. And it was a culmination of a bunch of stuff. Now looking back, that all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'll let him tell you more.
Well, let me
about
get
that.
to the reveal first, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
We're going into the next chapter. You ready?
All right.
All right. Jason and Ari have joined forces to form Frontline Careers to connect job seekers and employers, but not just for any worker. They are helping the workers on the front line. And they aren't helping them find just any job. We are talking about frontline friendly jobs. These gentlemen know from experience how detrimental it is to undervalue those most likely to be overlooked. It doesn't just hurt the employee and their families, but the business in the long run. Frontline Careers is here to rebuild this bridge. Thank you, Ari Malka and Jason Roberts, for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, man. Yeah. How was that? That made sense, right?
Yeah,
I mean, is that kind of what we do? That's okay.
No,
So
that
now,
was
give me
perfect.
I want to hear this idea behind Frontline.
I want that clip though, so because you
I got
sound
it.
much better than I do.
Yeah,
right?
100%. I got you.
Yeah.
The idea behind Frontline, though. I mean, where does this all? Obviously, it starts from within. Both of you guys are showing real clear, focus on making an impact, and you're making an impact on businesses that you've had experience with. You've seen this firsthand,
Right.
that there's a need.
There is a need, right? So let me just say that maybe there's some folks that can, now that you know a little bit about me and Ari and our upbringings and just how our value system and how just things were instilled in us. There are some folks that can make a lot of money and maybe on the backs of other people and just sleep good at night, no problem. Hey, that's just the way the ball bounces, But it's not the way I bounce or Ari here. And so from after I was in in San Angelo, went into consulting. Then I moved into industry, working kind of the energy kind of trading, asset management side, and then I went into the waste business. But most of that was, so I started Frontline. Most of that was corporate, right? And you're dealing in, you're talking with directors, VPs, CEOs, but I'm in kind of that kind of environment, right? And but I was very fortunate. Again, along the way, I've had just great people supporting me. So get promoted and asked to come out here to California, right? Sunny California, and love it here, by the way. Love California, and so really embedded in frontline operations. So we're talking, people who are, driving trucks, fixing trucks, who are, sorting trash, sorting recycling, and just operating very heavy equipment, forklifts. And so you get a chance to really see, man, this is where the value is created. It's not in all those corporate settings, right? And I want to downplay. There's absolutely some value there, but hopefully you get what I'm saying here. And but I also realized very, very quickly, you start to see what's the game that's at play, right? Folks that are creating all the value, but yet is it truly being reciprocated?
Right. And that's, it brings me back a little bit to what Ari said earlier, right? And I hear it from people a lot. I have a 9-to-5, but I actually work 24/7. It's my business.
Right.
But I also can't sit in my office from 9 to 5.
Right.
But I'm careful about just saying I wouldn't work a 9 to 5. I couldn't work a 9 to 5 because, we all could if we had to. But some of those folks who do sit in the office from 9 to 5, they make an impact, right?
Yeah.
They do matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what if you're dealing with a type of an operation that has somebody in that office working 9 to 5 and is managing these frontline type employees? Are they making the right impact? Right? Is that the right question?
Man. You hit it. You hit the nail on the head, as they say.
Okay.
Because that's one of the things I really noticed is I would have people in my organization. So I was very fortunate to run kind of large scale frontline operations, like full of very talented, motivated, like I said, drivers, mechanics, forklift operators, you name it, right? And but the history was one in which you're not treated with dignity and respect, right? And sometimes there's this rift that could form between the frontline employees and management. And so that was kind of my first, really just the kind of an awakening for me, like, wow, this disparity can exist and be so vast, right? Here you got hardworking men and women, right? Not treated, like I said, with dignity, respect, and yet, they're the ones that are doing all the work. It just doesn't make sense to me. And you'd be surprised, man. I'll share some more stories with you as we go throughout this, but how many people were just surprised when you would just, talk to them, or you would listen to them, right? Or you would follow up on what you said you would do, or you would make decisions with their well-being in mind. Right. Now the challenge was sometimes you could be making decisions with their well-being in mind, but yet the management that's above you, right, isn't in line with that, right? Never ask about, well, how are the folks doing? Right, what support do they need, right? It's always focused on efficiencies and things like that. And that's when I started to see, man, that even though, companies may invest a lot of time and effort in campaigns, and I cringe when I hear the term "people first." I cringe when I hear it, Zeke. If you hear "people first," I want you to run. All right, I want you to look suspiciously at anybody telling you "people first." Right. Is it real? Because when you peel back the onion, you pull away the cover, and you really look in it, it's not people first, right? It's people wherever we can fit them in. And so that's where I got, that's when it really started seeing me, where I knew, okay, this is not the path that I want to go down. the entrepreneurial fire was lit early, like I talked about.
Right.
But it was then that I knew that, okay, you've got to find it. And because this is not the pathway. You can try to continue to climb this corporate ladder and make a whole bunch of money, but you're going to be miserable. And now you see the folks that are going to be paying your crazy salary and all of your bonuses and your stock options. You see who's doing it now. And like I said, some people can sleep.
Yeah, how you gonna sleep at night? Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to.
Right.
But it wasn't until, and let me know if you want to go on the story or save it. It was about a year and a half later after I moved here to California that did hit me.
I love it.
You know?
I love it. You know what I really, only thing that I'm missing from this is because I really think it's important as we define frontline. I want to hear more industry type examples.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's a lot of them, right? And you know, let's say this, because I wasn't gonna get into this till later with COVID and all, but you don't really hear the term frontline until after COVID started, right? It's certainly in the mainstream.
Man, I tell you, it's funny you bring that up. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So we had a lot of trouble with that. I mean, and maybe to some extent probably still do. When we tell people what we do, when we talk about frontline workers, I imagine that in some people's minds that means, you know, nurses, doctors, etc. Right? They are frontline workers. That's for damn sure. But we're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people who kept our economy alive, right, during COVID. Which, you know, it's sad to say that to some extent it took COVID for people to recognize how important what they do is, you know, they're always there. When we say frontline, what we're talking about are the people who are really directly involved with customers or the productions of goods or providing services. So it's literally the people on the front line.
That's right.
And they have to be present to do the job.
And they have to be present to do the jobs. There's no remote. No remote work here for frontline work.
They don't have the option to work at home. You know?
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot. You know, and one of the things that you were just saying too, Jason, about you know, the thought process, right, in that boardroom, right? You know, and the upper management and so forth, where they're kind of thinking about the bottom line before they're thinking about like the health and safety of those folks on the front line, right?
Yeah.
That's when it starts getting a little scary.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're comfortable up there in their, you know, hot air balloon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And again, that's where, like, you got to have your value system in order. You know, and for me, treating everyone, dignity, respect, that kind of golden rule is high on my list.
Yeah,
it's absolutely high on my
list. That started early for you too.
And I don't think I'm any better than you.
Sure.
Right? My circumstances may be different, but I'm no better than you. Right? And we'll talk about this, but I've come across folks who are professionals at what they do, and that's another thing I cringe when I hear is professional jobs and blue collar jobs. You won't find a better professional than a seasoned waste driver. Right? You won't find a better professional than someone who is working in, you know, some of these warehouses and checking out product and building out, you know, the boxes and getting stuff, you know, shipped out. So
because the receiver, the customer is going to say, I want that exactly the way that I want it. I want it done right. I want it, the box taped exact. I want it. So they are expecting professionalism out of that person who packaged it, who lifted it, who moved it, who don't drop it. You know, all of
or
that,
or who's cooking your food.
Sure.
Who's serving your food? Who's washing your dishes? Right.
Okay. That's why I was asking. I want to hear more about the industries.
Yeah. So, and that's when we talk about frontline, we're talking about, you know, cooks, dishwashers, servers. You know, if we talk about the restaurant industry real quick, your bartenders, your barbacks, your bussers, right? Even that frontline, you know, manager, right? Those are the types of people that have to be present. Go to your grocery store. Folks that are stocking your shelves, checking you out the cashier checking me out the line. Excuse me. They couldn't be home during the pandemic.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Now, some of the restaurants absolutely got closed down. They closed down, but considered essential. But these are folks that, large in part, to do their work, they have to be present. And in my experience, they're absolutely professionals at what they do. But it wasn't always treated in that fashion. You know?
I like this. You know, okay, so now here's the other piece, right? What is, okay, and obviously, I wouldn't even say obviously, okay? Because I'm going to be careful because I'm across from professionals.
All right.
But frontline workers need to be treated a certain way, right? They need to be applauded and appreciated in a certain way. Now, the question is that just more pay?
No.
Is it, you mentioned earlier, listening to their input, right? This is how I would appreciate being treated, or you know, or benefits maybe, right? There are other or just consideration, right? They got things going on at home. They need some flexibility. They got, right? Am I going down the right path here?
How much time you got? How much time you got?
So I'll say something really quick, just again. So this isn't a novel idea. You know, there are companies out there who are brilliant at doing this stuff.
Great.
I mean, they take care of their employees so well.
Good.
And guess what? They're hugely successful.
Awesome.
And people stay.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So what gets me is that Jason comes to me with these conversations because he knows what field I'm in, and we have these talks, and you know, and then of course in grad school we're reading thousands of articles about the importance of employee engagement and you know, the right way to manage people, etc. Right? And it's like, okay, well, you know, the right thing to do is to treat them well and give them these benefits and support them, and the smart thing to do business wise is to do the same thing. Why aren't more companies doing what they should be doing? And I think that is the problem that we need to solve. We need to shift those scales.
Yep.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the job seekers, right?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to help transform these businesses, which you guys clearly have great experience with. And it's another thing to go find these folks who need to work, right? Who are looking for the right job. Okay. And I think that's another thing that you guys are actually assisting with, because you are helping them define the right job. Right. Like that, because people say it all the time, and maybe I'll just know it when I get there, or maybe I'll just take it on for a couple of weeks and then decide if I want to leave. You got this great resignation going on and all of that stuff.
Right.
But maybe they just didn't have the right job. So how do we define what that is?
So you got to, you know, let's just take a step back and talk about the mission of the company, right? Because that really drives everything that we do.
Please.
And we always come back to that. So the mission of our company is to connect frontline workers, job seekers, who are looking for more with companies that offer more. Okay, so now if that's our mission, how do we execute on it? And we do that with two primary things. One is our job site, okay, which is launching next week. And then the second is with our Frontline Friendly certification. So I'll cover one of those, and I'll let Ari talk about the certification. So how we help them find that job that you're talking about is with our job site, it's exclusive. So unlike many of the platforms out there today, right, only companies that are offering perks or benefits to their employees can list their jobs on our site, okay? So number one, we said from the beginning, we got to come back to our mission, right? They want more, and not just want, actually deserve more. That's been my experience, absolutely deserve more. So we're not about quantity, we're about the quality of the work, the quality of the job. Because let's face it, one thing this pandemic has done, right, if there is any such thing as a silver lining, right, it would be that I think it's reminded people right? And I remember seeing this. I've had conversations with folks that I'm sitting talking with someone that don't understand the value that they have, right? They just don't really understand that you have options. You can exercise your options.
Right.
You don't have to sit here and stay. But I think what the pandemic has done has reminded folks or helped people realize their immense value, right? And also recalibrate their own value systems. I'm not going back to that.
That's right.
I don't want to go to a place where it's just, this is what we need from you. And it's never, ever articulated, what are we going to give to you in return?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's not about paying our site. It's about the perks. It's about the benefits. And then we take it a step further with our Frontline Friendly certification. Like I said, I'll let Ari walk you through that. But back to something you said earlier about being more than pay. And I said jokingly, how much time you got? You know, But I've had former, I hate to say employees, but I've had former work colleagues that were in my organization. We're all one team. Call me and say, just out the blue, give me a call. This is years later. Man, I tell you what, I would take a $5 an hour cut just to be treated with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
And then I'm just sitting here listening, right? As the event. I remember one situation where someone's, you know what I'm going to say, right? She stands up and she says, you know what? You were the first big boss who ever talked to us. That shouldn't happen.
Right.
And it doesn't take much. Right, but we're talking now not just about the benefits and the perks. We're talking about the work culture, right? And how you treat your people. So that's the innovative part of our site. And that's how it ties into what we're calling our Frontline Friendly certification. So like I said, I'll let my man Ari talk about that here. But that's how it all comes together, because you're right. People want more than just pay. There's been all kinds of, you see it in articles and things like that, but I've had the conversations. I know.
There's higher returns.
Yeah.
There's higher returns in giving your coworkers, employees great attention, right? You get more effort. You get loyalty. You get dedication.
You get that discretionary effort is what we call it.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Discretionary. Because if you don't, you're gonna get very minimal effort.
Yeah. They just
Are you gonna
here
get
to
more
work,
to somebody who's not
clock
giving you
in,
anything?
clock out.
That's all I'm gonna do.
Yep.
The very, very minimum. I can see something that's happening and they're the folks that see it.
They know.
They know.
Yep.
But they're not gonna tell you. I'm not. You know what?
Yeah,
why do I care? You don't care about me.
I ain't the manager.
I ain't the manager. They'll figure it out. They'll deal with it. And meanwhile, it's costing your company millions, and you don't even see it.
Yeah.
You don't even see it.
Oh man, the cost. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Detrimental.
Yeah.
Okay, Frontline Friendly. Come on, Ari.
Yeah.
Tell us what this means. What this is all about.
So, again, this is as we go on, we feel like we're really addressing some gaps in sort of our field, right? We're not the first to think of an organizational certification, right? There's a Great Place to Work, Best Companies to Work For. Those all exist, right? They're primarily aimed, though, at the corporate side of businesses, right? They're not asking questions about the frontline workers, right? So you can get a company who gets a certification for Great Place to Work, but if you ask the frontline workers at that company, they may or may not say that, agree with that sentiment. So the reality is that there's a lot of sort of moving parts, and there's a lot of variables that are taken into account when we're talking about, well, what's a good company to work for, right? I mean, you got to think about a lot of different things. You got to think about the benefits, the perks. You got to think about management. You got to think of the organizational culture, right? Opportunities to advance, opportunities to learn, etc. Right? There's a whole bunch of things. So, what we did is we sort of combine these different elements, dimensions, etc. Right? And we came up with some questions to measure those different dimensions. And we're getting data from the employee side, and we're getting data from the management side, right? So that's what our certification is. It's not rocket science. It's just measuring the stuff that is important, that we think is important, and that we've heard is important for employees to feel like they're working at a good place, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it's not it's not rocket science. It's just listening to what people find, what people value, right? Knowing the importance of human resource management practices, knowing the importance of organizational culture, supportive management, etc. Right? And we're sort of putting that into these two individual assessments, and then we combine that data and then analyze it to see whether a company is actually frontline friendly or not.
I love it. And then there's a benefit to them, right? Once they become frontline.
Yeah,
certified.
so their benefits, their benefits despite the outcome in a way, right? So they can go through the certification process. They get certified. There's absolutely benefits, because they'll be on our site. And they'll be, if you're looking for a job, Zeke, on our site, and you see, this company's hiring in Vista, California, and they're Frontline Friendly certified, you now know that this is a really good company to work for.
Right.
They also get some data insights because we're gathering all this data so we can benchmark different things.
Yeah.
And they can market it, right? It's just, there's a lot of benefits, but even if they don't get certified, there's still good benefits because they get some really valuable data and insights about where the gaps are and how they can fill them to become frontline friendly over time.
I love it. Okay, so Jason, you've given us stories about the customer, or not the customer, but the coworker that contacts you and says, hey, clearly, basically, this place isn't frontline friendly.
Right.
Can you give us an example or a story about one that is?
Oh, one that is. Oh, I got one. It's so fitting. We're so fitting that we're sitting there drinking some vino. There's a winery actually in nearby, not too far from here in Temecula, and so a lot of times, almost every time I go out somewhere, I'm always to eat or anything like that, I'm gonna ask, how's it to work here? So I'm gonna ask, hey, how'd you find the job? We're always in research mode, right? So we can constantly, refine our approach, our product, and things like that. But there is a winery there that I talked to the host, right? He's greeting me as I'm coming in, asking that question, Zeke. And he tells me, you know what? How'd you find out about the job? He found out about it word of mouth in his case. And what do you like? I love working here. I love it. What do you love about working here? Well, okay. I used to be in the construction industry, right? Really couldn't take a day off. Here, if I need to take a day, I don't get hounded. Nobody asks me any questions. Nobody makes me feel bad for taking a day off. Oh, and by the way, I can even participate in the harvest where they help with, I guess the harvest and the grapes and stuff like that. They let me participate in stuff like that. Oh, and if I want to take a class, he's sitting there rattling off all the benefits to me. Right?
You didn't have to keep asking.
I didn't even have to keep asking. He's telling me.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And he's telling me, I can go take a class up here as long as when I guess dealing with wine making or something like that, and they'll pay for that, right? But here's how you know you're working for that. He's working for a frontline friendly company, because then that's one. But you never just stop at just one person, right?
Okay,
that's one. That could just be an outlier.
True.
That could be an outlier. So then you talk with another person. I talked to. So that's the host. The host is I'm coming into the winery. But then there might be. I talked to the host at the restaurant, right? That's within the winery.
Okay.
Same story. Love it here.
Wow.
Why do you love it? Right? So I want you to ask these questions, and now we're kind of training how to ask questions when you're going out to restaurants around frontline workers, right? And she used to work at a very, very nationwide coffee house, right? And she said, again, they just didn't treat you like people. And money was okay, But she specifically raised an example about when her aunt got sick and she needed some time off. Again, didn't get hounded. To the contrary, they were asking her, what can we do to help?
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the restaurant manager started there as a dishwasher. She noticed that. Okay? Talk with another person there. Same place. Right? Found out his dad actually works there as a cook. Okay? So he just needed a job. He's out of high school, needed a job. Okay, we'll work with my dad for a little bit. Loves it. Why do you love it here? Right? It's a family. Right? That's what a Frontline Friendly company looks like. Right? And I hope to get them as a customer one day, right?
Yeah.
But that's what a Frontline Friendly company looks like. When the people there, and not once did they say how much I'm getting paid. Okay?
Yeah.
Not once did they mention it. They talked about the family atmosphere. They talked about what the company's providing them, right? And actually, there's one more at that same location.
Sure.
Right? She's actually, I guess, getting an associate's degree, thinking about going into teaching and things, doing some things like that. She told me she's thinking about now making a career in wine, and kind of in the wine industry. Her boss is talking to her, having those types of conversations with her, right?
Yeah.
That's what a Frontline Friendly company looks like. And it doesn't cost any extra money.
Right.
And I tell you what, they're going to get that back many times over, right?
100%. Yeah.
Kind of what Ari was saying before. But it's so easy to get caught up in treating your folks as an expense line, right? As a liability versus seeing them as an asset that they are. Because if you see them as an asset, you're going to take care of them, right? And so that's an example, a concrete example of a business that, while they haven't been actually gone through the certification process, there's some when you hear anecdotal evidence like that from multiple people within a business,
Yes, right.
Okay, you guys would get the certification.
Yeah. They didn't send them out because they saw you coming.
Yeah.
Go talk to
Yeah. And this is what we want you to say.
Tell them I'm nice too.
Exactly.
We kind of wrap this up, our show up with a business lesson. Okay, and Ari, you got your experience in research, plenty of it, and so just pulling from the conversation that we had today, it seems to me that a good business lesson would be when you're researching your own business, right? Your business owners, when you're researching your own business for growth, if your survey is more geared toward the frontline side and not the corporate side, you will reap the successes for your business. Does that make sense? Does that sound about right? Revise it for me.
Yeah, so I would just say, I would tweak it a little bit, and I would say one of the best things that you could do, regardless, it's frontline or not,
okay,
is give voice to your employees.
Love it.
And but actually listen to what they have to say, right? Listen to their ideas, take them into account. Now you can go in the room with leadership, and make your own decision, which is to some extent the way that it should work, right? Leaders need to make the decision. But the good ones take into account what their employees say. They listen to their ideas, right? They listen to what's going on, and they use that data to make better decisions.
All right.
So I don't know if that's what you were going for.
No, I appreciate that remix. I need that. I need that. That's what I'm here for. I'm trying to, get this information, and I'm trying to pass it on. And so I appreciate that. You have another one for me?
No, I think I already did a great job. Just, invest in your frontline.
That's right.
Right. If I have, there's no such thing as infinite resources, and it's no different for a business or a company. You have a finite amount of resources that you need to allocate, in terms of where you're going to invest your dollars, where you're going to invest your time, where you're going to invest your effort. Invest in your frontline.
I love it.
That's where the value creation happens in your company. Where's the revenue? Just take it. If we look at it at a business level, where's the revenue gen happen?
Yep.
It's happening on the front line. And in my experience, I have not seen, or the companies that get that, right? They don't have that major turnover issue, right? And I guarantee you, if you track their performance over a long period of time, you see that they're outperforming the rest. And there's been countless studies that prove that.
It's another piece of that real quick that I think makes sense, and tell me if I'm wrong, that at some point, I bet for a good Frontline Friendly style company, the folks in the corporate office started down low.
Yeah, that example
because they understand, right?
Well, but yeah, part of it is one of those sort of elements of a Frontline Friendly company is this opportunity for advancement and growth.
Love it.
So you're absolutely right.
I love it. One more thing, last thing on our way out is you mentioned earlier a little bit about balance. You mentioned earlier a little bit about.
You might not be the right person to hear.
I've got way better at it, man.
Yes.
Because the show is a lot about that, right? The show is about
different
that, right?
Day. It's a different day.
You got the briefcases, you got the sunglasses.
Different topic.
It's really about trying to find, how to balance work and personal, and even some of the stories that you told when it came to those folks who needed to go take care of somebody who was sick or needed some time off for some reason, to not just be 100% about business. And I think that one, the businesses should be allowing for that, obviously, but also us hardworking people should find a way to
do it ourselves,
to focus on. We're here for business, but we also know how to, chill a little bit as well. So let's give a little advice for the folks that are looking for some balance.
Well, like from an entrepreneurial perspective?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I would say maybe a couple of things in. I don't want to get too long-winded, but balance starts with first, you got to put some thought into it before you even jump in, right? So I think before we got started here in this effort, I tried to make sure that I had everything in alignment, personal life, financial life, that things were in order, right? Because all it takes is all these things, because when you're starting a business, it's going to stress, it's going to put a load on your life, right? And if anything is out of alignment, it's going to crumble, right? And with that goes your balance, okay? So just making sure you got things from just expectations. You know what you're getting into. Your spouse knows what you're getting into, right? Your friends and family know what you're about to do, and they're on board and ready to support and help you. That you've got a good support system, and you're surrounding yourself with the right people, and then you yourself know and kind of believe in your capabilities and what you can do. So it starts there. So balance starts well before you find yourself in that situation, right? Because you have to lay that foundation and make sure everything is in alignment, okay? And I think back when I first started, when I went to business school, I didn't make sure those things were in alignment, okay? And so my balance got way out of whack, and my stress level was way up here, okay? And it didn't really have to be if I just maybe put a little bit more thought into making sure things are in alignment. So if I'm giving some advice, is before you do anything, make sure you get all your ducks in a row. Right? Make sure because you're going to feel some pressure. You're going to feel some load on all aspects. And so entrepreneurship will expose any cracks. Okay? It's going to expose any cracks. So you need to make sure that you've got, everything in order. So that's how you at least get the foundation for having any sort of semblance of balance. Then once you get into it, it's really staying disciplined. Like for me, I've tried to take a holistic approach to wellness, which is, my physical side, my spiritual side, my emotional side, my mental side, my relations, my social side, my relationships, and obviously there's occupations, all these different dimensions of wellness. But for me, the first and the most important is the physical. So, and I kind of injured myself recently. I'm not as young. We were talking about that before. Not as young as I used to be, and I got to remind myself of that. But I try to make sure that I take care of my body, right? And I eat right, and I exercise, because with that comes clarity of mind. With that comes, and then I meditate, So that side kind of all that. If you can get the physical, it's going to lead to all the other areas of wellness. To me, feed off of that. So that's how I've been able to achieve some balance. Is I make sure I carve out my time for the physical, and also just thinking about back to what didn't work well before, and try to make sure, even though right now we're in the midst of launching this site, I'm helping to coach my son's basketball team, So you find time still to invest in those relationships. That's part of wellness, is your relationships with other people.
That's right.
Because I've been there where you neglect those relationships and you look up and it's 5 years later. You know, it just takes, get the foundation set. Make sure you got everything laid out as best as possible. And then when you get into it, now it's executing against that plan. For me, it was starting with the physical. And I just feel so much better when I am physically where I need to be. Right. So now I can engage with other people because I have that energy.
That's right.
Right. Now I can go and get my meditation in, those types of things. So for me, that's how I've been able to achieve balance, but also involving my family in this endeavor. I'll show you, I'm going to show you, I'll give you a picture of one of the things that my son, it's in my office at the house. He made like a little building that says Frontline Careers on it. Frontline Careers on it. He painted it and everything. It's cardboard. But my whole family's involved.
That's right.
And when you have that sort of backing, it makes balance so much easier.
That's lovely, man. That's lovely. I love it, man. Anything to add to that, Ari?
No, not really.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
I got it, man. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. The conversation was amazing. We're gonna head over to your ribbon cutting now.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it's a celebration.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know you can learn more about these guys at frontlinecareers.com and everything that they've got going on. Their endeavors are amazing. You can give them a call, 855-706-5463, and email Jason at frontlinecareers.com or Ari, A-R-I, at frontlinecareers.com. I love it, man. Thank you guys so much for being here. The stories are amazing. I think you guys will be good hosts. I think you guys, this is something that I look forward to working with you in the future, because I would like to hear more stories and even have you back and tell some more stories. And
Love to come back, man.
Yeah. Same business, different day.
Thanks, Zeke.
Thank you for listening to Same Business, Different Day. We truly appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe, and leave a nice comment on all platforms. It really helps our show. The Same Business, Different Day podcast is produced by A Different Day Radio, Star Fox Media, and James Russell.